WhiskyJason here, whiskey from the viewpoint of an American in Germany tasting rare and exotic whiskeys. And today I have another German whiskey called Stonewood. This is the Bavarian whiskey from 1818. Now this is a single grain 10-year-old whiskey, 45% ABV. And this was actually matured in Limousin oak and cognac barrel, a 300-liter cognac barrel for the 10 years. Now this costs for the 0.7 liter bottle 120 euros, which is extremely expensive. And they claim, that is Gregor Schramm from the Steinwalder Home Distillery, Steinwalder Hausbrennerei, in Bavaria, that this is literally the oldest whiskey from Germany. Since the 19th century, they have been using exactly this recipe. It's a single grain, which means they actually use wheat and a little bit of barley, and they distill it in a wash still and a spirit still. And then they put it into oak for 10 years and they bottle it at above 40%, which is 45%. So they fulfill all the requirements for calling it a whiskey. Now over here in Germany, especially down in Bavaria, this used to be called Korn. Korn is not the maize that you use for your corn on the cob, but rather this is just usually a spirit which is distilled from wheat. And exactly the same process with whiskey. You have to ferment it, and then you distill it, and you often drink it very, very clear. Now, some people have said, hey, why don't we put it in some wood, mellow it out a little bit, and that's what they started doing in 1818, which is fairly amazing. Now, my favorite part about this entire story is the following. If you go to the shop, stonewood-whiskey.de, DE is Deutschland for Germany, you will find this whiskey, and then it says you can buy a certificate. Why a certificate? Why not the bottle itself? Because it says the next batch will be available in September of 2021. So over 3 years, you're going to wait for this 10-year-old whiskey. They sold out all their stock, and it's going to be another 3 years before it's finally matured long enough. Amazing. Talk about a whiskey boom. Now, each and every whiskey has its nice little own card. They have a total of 4 different whiskeys out there. A 3, a 5, a 10, and a peated whiskey, which they call smoke. And they talk all about the different things here. They talk about the ingredients, as well as how do they do the mash tun, how do they do the washback, how do they do the wash and spirit still, what type of barrels do they use, and where do they store it. So all that information is on this nice little card. And that's pretty good. I like that. So now let's try it. Wow. It's not something I prefer. Now, I just bought a kit. 6 cognac whiskeys, or cognacs, I'm sorry, not whiskeys. I love my whiskeys. I have cognac whiskeys. 6 cognacs, so I can understand more and more what's happening when the whiskey says it has a cognac finish, because I don't know much about cognac, nor do I know much about brandy. And so I have these 6 different cognacs, some VSs and VSOP or VOSP, I don't remember. I think it must be VSOP. And so there are different ages and different qualities and so on. And I really enjoy brandy and cognac, which I didn't know beforehand, never had the chance to try it. And now we have something here which is not typical for the cognacs. What I do get is I do get lemongrass, which is a weird weird aroma to have in a whiskey. A lot of the grain, I get the lemongrass. And I actually do get, and this was very, very, very unusual. I said this in my German video as well. I get Chesapeake Bay blue crab. I don't know if you ever cracked the shell of a blue crab from Chesapeake Bay. I come from Virginia, so we went down to Virginia Beach every once in a while. We go to the crab house, have the little what is it? The bib, exactly, the bib, the plastic bib, and you'd have the nutcracker or the claw crackers and so on. You just get in there, pull that meat out of the lobsters and as well as the Chesapeake Bay blue crabs, and you crack the crab open. There's a little bit of a distinct aroma. And that's what I'm getting here, which is like you put you put lemongrass on your crab, and this is what you get. It's not something I really, really want in my whiskey, to be honest. Mm. Hmm. This is history. The historically oldest whiskey of Germany, continually distilled over the last, I don't know, what is it, 200 years? Um, no, this is like a C minus minus in my book. It's first of all not really whiskey that I like. Second of all, I love good grain whiskeys, but it's not good. A 10-year-old grain. No. I have like a 50-year grain. I got like a 30-year. I got a 27-year-old. That's Scottish grain. That's when you really, really get that vanilla and the smoothness and just the oiliness and so on. And this is just missing all that. It actually says here, and I like this, the finish is long, complex, and varied. Has nothing to do about the quality of the finish, but rather about the quantity, more or less. So I'm not really a big fan of this. I'm going to have the master distiller, the Gregor Schrem, on my YouTube live stream on Sunday evening, German time, 9 p.m. I think it's end of August, beginning of September, which I'm really looking forward to. I'm going to try the other whiskeys as well, but me, myself, and we must admit that this really isn't our cup of tea. As I said, a C minus minus. Value for money, 120 euros. Oh, come on. That's like $150. You know, I can buy like 2 bottles of Wow. So of the Elijah Craig. I don't know. No, sorry. It's going to fail. No. And I can't buy it anyways. I have to wait till September 2021 to get it. This is a funny, funny story. All right. Very, very good. So my question for the day is, have you ever had any whiskeys that have been able to say they've had a continual tradition of being made for the last 200 years? This can say it. There was no prohibition in America. Even during the World War I and II, these little tiny distilleries had their farms and were able to distill. Most of the time, the juice was confiscated by someone else, either the British or the Russians or the Americans or the Nazis or the French, whoever else just kind of walked through that moment. But it's happened. They've been distilling now as a family for over 200 years, and that's a very, very amazing thing. If I go back here to Elijah Craig, not really. They can't say that. Heaven Hill didn't produce basically during Prohibition, and well, Elijah Craig did. Wait a second, Evan Williams did. They had that nice little pharmacy permission and so on, but they weren't allowed to distill. They were allowed to sell their goods, but not really allowed to distill further on. All right, so who knows? My question was, do you know any whiskeys in America, Scotland, and so on that have been producing for the last 200 years nonstop? Okay, thank you very much for watching. Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, my videos come out. WhiskyJason here from Europe, in specific Germany, tasting rare and exotic whiskeys. Bye-bye.